I would rather fight a cougar barehanded than subject myself to an uncomfortable exchange. Truly.
Welcome to the Busy Girls Book Club. We are bringing you all of the internet's most popular books, letting you know whether or not you should take the time to read them. Oh, today we have a TikTok doozy. I can't wait. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Catherine. And like Caitlin said, we've got a doozy today. This is a book that has truly taken TikTok by storm in kind of a negative way, not a positive way. It is Silver Elite by the elusive pen name Dani Francis. It is billed as a dystopian adult romance book with a touch of fantasy. The author has done interviews with different news sources and stuff like that. And they asked her, like, why did you write this book? And she answered, I loved dystopian growing up and reading about it. I thought, why can't it be adult? And that was the reasoning behind Silver Elite. Silver Elite follows Wren Darlington, who is a psychic, kind of. She has telepathy and some other powers that can influence other people. And that is a no-no in this society, in this dystopian apocalyptic society, that you get executed if you have those powers. So she has to live in hiding with her uncle, who is a resistance fighter. And yeah, she puts her foot in her mouth and gets herself in trouble. And she ends up in a elite program to train to become the best soldier for said government, while also trying to hide her identity. And she's also falling in love with a dude that is totally inappropriate.
Yeah. So
It's not the opinion part yet, Catherine.
Yeah. Well, this book has really gotten a lot of attention, so we're going to read some reviews of it first before we get into our own opinions. So yeah, do you guys have any reviews from the internet?
Yeah. I'm trying to find my favorite one. Oh, okay, here's one. So on Fable, you cannot give it 0 stars. You have to give it like something. So this is, I believe, a 0.25 star. It says, God, this book was awful. It felt like Divergent with less story. Also, that's not enemies to lovers. That's just sleeping with the enemy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's another. This is half a star. When she said she was an annoying child growing up, I thought, yeah, we can tell.
Yeah. The big ups on that one.
And then I'm just going to read the first part of one more. It's 1 star. It says, I actually hated this book so much. Katniss for adults? No. She gets with President Snow's son. The cognitive dissonance is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also saw one that it was like if Katniss slept with the head game maker.
Yeah, that's literally what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah. Going off of that Hunger Games vibe, I found one too. It's a 1-star review from Goodreads, and it says, this is not a return to the Hunger Games as an adult. That would require some coherent exploration of the genre, it claims. But y'all don't want to hear me. You just want to dance.
Yikes. Okay, I have like 5. All short one-liners. One of them's long, but I'm not going to read it. The whole thing. Okay, all 1 stars. And is the dystopia in the room with us right now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Respectfully, you're being gaslit. 1.5. Did they pay people to say this was 5 stars?
I believe they did.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they did. 1.5. Slop, but not even in a fun and enjoyable way. And then my favorite one, there is no God. This book is proof enough.
Oh. Okay, so that's what I saw another one that was talking about like so the last time I read a book that's only been reviewed by its ARC readers so far. And um also it was billed as Hunger Game for adults, so all the Hunger Game puns are warranted.
Yep.
You can't bill it like that and not expect Suzanne Collins stands to come in and be like, what the hell did I just read?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure based on how we're talking so far, our audience can guess what some of our reviews of Silver Elite, TikTok's most popular and infamous book are. So who wants to go first?
You know what? Actually, I'll go first because I'm normally the most extreme hater, and I think you guys might out hate me this time. So I gave this book 2 stars. I'll also go first because I'm the least surprising for hating this. This book made me want to apologize to Colleen Hoover. I feel like I need to take back the things I said about Allie Hazelwood. Like, there's actually worse books out there. Sorry. I thought it was you and it wasn't. There's worse. I think this book is so bad. Like, the main character won the unlikable contest, which is very competitive these days.
She beat DM Bellator with a stick.
Yes. Like, I would actually swear to only read Twilight for the rest of my life rather than read a single other book from this main character's perspective.
I don't think we're going to out hate you, babe.
No.
Okay. I'll try to be quick. The main love interest is not even a real person, totally lacks depth, still have no idea who he is. Main character falls in love with him despite the fact that he's an active apologist for genocide against her. Actually, the main character is a total apologist for the entire society that they live in, despite the fact that they're literally committing genocide. And every twist sucked. They were either blatant as fuck or made zero sense. I mean, I'm actually not sure what the pros of reading this book are. Like, it was awful. And most of the book, I was like around a 3-star. I was like, you know what? The world is interesting enough. I mean, it's like military academy, so there's points there. And then the main character makes this one decision towards the end of the book, and it's probably the single dumbest choice I've ever read a main character make in my entire experience reading. Like,
and then makes about 5 more after that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that just get progressively worse somehow. Because I make fun of Fourth Wing for this, for being like, oh, the main character's so smart, and then you just read a girl be actually so dumb the whole book. This book is way worse. They're like, oh, she's elite. She's the top student at this elite university. I was like, I don't believe you. She doesn't have 2 brain cells to rub together. Anyway, that's my long rant. I hated it. Now you guys go.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I'm at 2 stars. I swear to God, Ren Darlington is the single dumbest human I have ever read. Ever. Like, she just makes the shittiest decisions. And I do not want to hear that, oh, he's hot, is a reason to sleep with the son of a general. The same general that literally wants to murder your entire species. Like, committing ethnic cleansing and genocide. Let's not. And she keeps, like, in the back of her mind, she's like, oh, wait, we can't be together because he's the son of a general. Bitch, that should be at the front of your mind. I don't care how fucking hot he is. Yeah, that just irked me. She made some stupid decisions at the end. This book felt like there were moments where it remembered it was dystopian and tried to tell you that it was dystopian, but it felt like he was beating me over the head with a stick with dystopian. And I'm like, no, dystopian is supposed to be nuanced. And it's supposed to be like, you're reading it and you realize at the end, oh, this was trying to tell me that propaganda is bad and that these kind of governments are really bad. Like a Suzanne Collins does. When she has something to say, she writes about it, and she writes it in a way that people on all sides of the political spectrum can enjoy and take things out of and like open their eyes to authoritarian governments. This was not opening my eyes to authoritarian government. So you can't build this as dystopian. You can't build this as Hunger Games and not expect this to be roasted to all hell.
Yeah.
I feel like people will be surprised. I'm also a 2-star. In theory, this should be a book I loved, and it had all of the pieces to be a great dystopian book. It was just like a 2-year-old shoving all the little puzzle pieces into the wrong holes kind of thing. Like, I was like watching it, and I'm like, oh, so this is gonna be it. This is gonna be like the big twist. Like, he's gonna, whatever. I don't even really care about spoiling it anymore. Oh, like, who's gonna be actually also undercover? Oh, nope. He actually just is okay with genocide. Like, there was things that could have been there. And, like, I liked the magic system, okay? Like, that was kind of unique. And I liked, the setting and stuff, like the world. Ren Darlington is dumb.
Yeah.
And every time she has half a thought about maybe I shouldn't do this, she does it anyway, and way worse than anyone ever expected.
Impulsive. She's an impulsive girly.
Yeah, it had the makings to be a good book. But I'm sorry. It's not a good book, and it's entirely too long for what we went through. Because the like middle, I don't know, there's like the first quarter, like not even a quarter. I don't know. Like 5/8 of this book is all the same stuff over and over and over. And it's like, okay, nothing's happening. She's not even changing as a character during all of the slow stuff. So it's like, what's the point?
She graduates the program and you still have like 30% more of the book. I was like, what?
Anyway, here's what's really shocking. A lot of people, and I know we're probably more critical than the average readers because we do this all the time, and we've read some really great stuff. Overall Goodreads rating is 4.1 out of 5. Overall Amazon rating is 4.4 out of 5. We kind of jumped straight to reviews. My bad. Did we say those?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. So
Oh.
that's where I was like, So
Yeah,
actually people like this book.
Yeah.
Because if TikTok tells you it's a good book, a lot of people think it's a good book. And that's just how it is. But I feel like Dani Francis has angered the generation who grew up on some of the greatest dystopian novels ever written. So,
yes.
Yeah. I'd say so. This book has faced a lot of accusations that it was written by AI, which I think after reading it, I actually think there's a strong argument for that. Because AI there's a lot of people who have talked about this, but I
don't think there were enough M dashes. No.
So AI does this thing where it sort of incidentally, how it works is, you feed it a bunch of material and then you're like, okay, now spit back out a version of this. And because of that, AI sort of incidentally often takes the oppressor's side in society. Like they'll spit out a narrative that's very supportive of like whatever the ruling class is, because it has consumed so much material that is, of course, written from like that perspective. That's part of why using AI in hiring can be really bad, because it will almost automatically prefer white men because that's who the company has viewed as successful in the past, et cetera, et cetera. I don't need to explain to people why AI is bad. Maybe I do. This book read like AI because I was like, okay, dystopian, but we're in favor of the authoritarian regime. Like AI with like, if only they stopped spying on us, then we'd be cool. I was like, what is happening? So anyway, that's why I'm not sure it's character or plot driven. I think it's written by.
I love how we're sliding into these questions. This book is plot driven with what little plot it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's no plot, but the character doesn't have any development.
The plot is she's stuck she loses everything, is in this program, and while she has the opportunity to take the regime down from the inside,
she does
not.
No.
Sorry, spoiler, she does.
Day one, I was like, you should be trying as hard as you can to get into Elite, babe.
Yeah.
You're here. Yeah. You know what you can do.
You could be the most elite person here.
She's trying to fail on purpose.
This regime.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just literally zero thoughts. Zero thoughts in her head. Second question, have you or would you read other books by the author?
Okay. We don't know if we have read other books by the author. This is why it at first caught a lot of attention on TikTok, because at first the publisher said from New York Times best-selling author. So people were like, whoa, this is a pen name. Who is this best-selling author? So we don't actually know if we've read other books by this author. I will not be reading more books by Dani Francis, but will you? And who do we think this mystery author is?
I genuinely don't know. There's been a lot of names that have been thrown out. Like some people say that it's probably a romance author that is trying to get into fantasy, romantasy, like that kind of vibe. So they went under a pen name because they didn't want this to impact their romance audience. So I heard Lucy Score was one of the people that they considered. I genuinely don't know who it is. People are also saying that it may not be a pen name and it's just actually Dani Francis. But then that doesn't make any sense because like the marketing seemed to heavily suggest that this was from a New York Times bestselling author. And newsflash, this is the first novel of Dani Francis.
There's the other thing. Some people tossed around names like Colleen Hoover. Some people tossed around names like of maybe authors who have been canceled. People said J.K. Rowling. This is an insult to J.K. Rowling to think she wrote this.
J.K. Rowling's at least a good author.
Excuse me? You cannot say some of these big name people wrote this, even if it's their first foray into dystopian.
Yeah.
They at least grasp the idea of genre and characters. I'd even say Colleen Hoover didn't write this. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
My favorite, I believe it was Catherine, said that it's Delia Owens.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only believable suggestion I've heard.
It reads pretty conservative. If you know where to look, which we knew to look for it because we had seen all the TikTok discourse. I didn't have to look that hard, though. It really hit me right over the top of the head really early on. So
it gives, like, I would be absolutely flabbergasted if a white woman wasn't behind this.
Or a white man. I've heard people say it's
right. Dani spelled spicily could be a girl or a guy.
Right. It gives very much privileged author, because every single scenario was like, I just don't believe this person has ever experienced meaningful oppression. Like, as a white woman, I cannot even imagine writing such an apologist narrative, like for the sexism of it all alone. Like,
yeah, but people are giving this 5 stars right and left.
Bots. My conspiracy theorist brain is on now, and it never comes on. But I truly believe that some of these 5 stars are bots and paid for.
I think ARC readers, some were paid. I do. I would say that. Because I think dedicated fantasy dystopian ARC readers aren't going to give that 5 stars.
Yeah.
So
I think if you want good reviews and hype around a book and you have the money to do it, it's not that difficult. Things that get a lot of advertising dollars, that get a lot of TikToks, that get a lot of reviews very early on, I think it's very easy to direct the narrative. I'm not saying necessarily that everyone who read this book just like believed what people told them about it, but I do think if you put something in front of an audience with a certain context, then that actually does really work to influence what happens after.
Some people who get ARCs would rather not post at all about it than say this was a bad book and jeopardize getting more books. So I think you have that too, is like some people just probably, even if they didn't like it, just didn't post it.
Because also, like, if you're really involved in the book talk scene, you know who the sympathetic reviewers are. Like, I don't know how many authors would really want us to read an arc of their book, because if I don't like it, I'm going to give it 2 stars. Like, and I'm not shitting on those reviewers. Like, I think everyone should manage their franchise however they like. But not everyone wants to give a bad review to an arc or a company that they feel like paid them and helped them out.
Or, I think I've brought this up before. I know a girl who used to get a bunch of arcs from authors and wrote a bad review and got doxxed on Goodreads.
Yeah.
Doxxed. She had to stop.
That's crazy.
Because people found her address.
Which is ridiculous. And
like
that should be talked
literally
about.
doxed. Yeah, death threats. I'm like, so people, you say New York Times bestselling author, you're like, well, I don't want to piss off that fan base.
Right. Especially once a positive narrative emerges, people become less and less willing to be the minority opinion. But that's why we're here.
Please don't dox us.
Yeah, please. I'm about
We
to
didn't hate it. We just gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, I'll say I hated it. Okay.
Anyway.
I've given podcast books less.
True. Okay. Back to our pre-spoiler questions. How is the pacing of the book?
Horrible.
Awful.
Yeah.
Way too long. Parts that should have been interesting were not interesting. The book had a clear, easy, making sense point to end and blew through it by like 200 pages.
Uh-huh.
It was too much and there wasn't enough interesting parts.
Yep. Pretty much the ending went from, you're going like 20 miles per hour the whole time, and the last, I don't know, 100 pages, you were going 150. I was like, whoa, what just happened? Too much to process.
You're going 150 blindfolded.
Yeah.
You're not even sure where you are anymore.
Yeah, you're on the bike with the like solar boost, not the other one, whatever was going on.
That bike from Nerve, the movie where he's blindfolded.
Yeah.
It had all the pieces, and there were points I was like, oh, here's what's going to happen next, thinking like, wow, this is going to be good. And then it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was so close.
I think I did not really like the beginning of this book either, but there was a point in this book where I was willing to forgive. Like I think there was a point where it was teetering between this could either become good or this is going to keep being bad, and it like got so much worse.
Yeah. I mean, normally these kind of books I can blow through because I just I have a brain for fantasy and a brain for like dystopian books, and I can read them at a very fast rate. I think I finished it in 3 to 4 days, which is actually surprisingly slow for me. Like I normally can just sit down and blow through it.
Oh no, this took me well over a week, and I finally had to crush it because my digital library loan was ending. Forced reading experience.
I kind of was like, I almost gave this 3 stars because it was like watching a train wreck. And I was actually enjoying how bad it was at one point because I was just like watching a train wreck. But then I was like, well, I can't actually give it 3 stars because it was a bad book.
Yeah. I thought about it briefly too, because like I said, it had all the pieces. But then I was like, honestly, if I go through each category, like characters, plot, like the only thing I really did enjoy was like the world and the magic system.
Right. And even that has its shaky parts. Like it was a good start. It was a good idea. That was not super well followed through upon. I actually
let me edit this book, guys. It could be so good.
Yeah, I think I actually did too read it pretty fast because I was just so ready to be done with it. I was like, and actually it's kind of shocking when you read it because everything happens in such an insane fashion that there is kind of shock value to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching the main character outdo herself is like entertaining in a way.
Yep.
It did surprise me because it didn't do anything it should have done.
Okay. Would you watch a movie or TV show of this book?
Hell no.
No. This is giving the later seasons of the CW's The 100.
It's giving Hallmark Mysteries.
Oh no. Don't insult Hallmark like that. At least they have like know where the plot's supposed to go.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead. I was just going to say, I think we're at our busy girl reading now.
I'm going to stick with my 2.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything constructive to say other than what I just said.
Yeah. I'm gonna ditto that and stick with my 2.
I'm actually gonna even drop it further. I'm gonna give it a 1. None of us enjoyed it. And the fantasy genre, for as much as I like kick the shit out of it sometimes, like there are so many good authors. There are even so many good books you can read, even if you just want like an easy, basic, you know what's going to happen the whole time romantasy. Like even if you truly just want a comfort read, like there are so many books that are better than this book. I genuinely like I would never recommend this book, and I regretted. Like I when I finished it, I felt like I had wasted my time and I was so ready to be done with it. So I'm gonna give it a 1.
Fair.
Okay, acceptable. Okay.
Spoiler alert discussion.
We've already spoiled quite a bit. Sorry.
I'm not sorry.
Not sorry. Don't read it.
If you guys aren't totally put off by how negative this has been by now, then you should totally stay tuned because there are a lot of plot points in this book that I cannot wait to discuss. I think it's going to be a fun discussion, even though we are absolutely going to go in on this book. So yeah, if you really enjoyed this book, we're not judging you. I'm genuinely sorry, but it's not going to go up from here. So strap in, guys. Our first question is, of course, is this book AI?
Can't say yes or no.
I say no. Or maybe its foundation was built by AI and the author built it out further. I don't think overall it is AI. I don't know. I don't have that much faith in AI. And honestly, I think AI might have done some things a little more nuanced. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a lot to ask of AI, and it just didn't. I didn't get the vibe.
I could almost believe it was edited by AI, like entered into AI to do the editing instead of paying an actual editor.
Sure.
And so it just did like grammar stuff and just did some like, didn't actually help plot or anything.
Yeah. So I feel like I lean Caitlin. I don't think this book was completely written by AI. I can totally believe, however, that portions of it were written by AI. I think in that the book feels very disjointed to me. And there are a lot of different sections that don't really fit together. And so to me, I could totally believe that this author had a concept, needed some help in some parts, and plugged in sections into some sort of AI simulator. Because also, like I mentioned earlier, there are some really concerning like markers of AI in the book, I think, namely just how like both sides it was. That felt extremely AI to me. I know that, there are people like that too who just think that way. So I'm not saying that like 1,000% means it's AI, but I have had a lot of people, like I'm a journalist, we're all journalists. And so that is an issue actually in news articles when you use AI is the AI will compulsively try to present things like equally from both perspectives. So yeah, there were portions of it where I was like, this feels like AI to me.
Yeah, the both sides of them in this book was absolutely crazy because even the main character, who is literally will be executed if they find out she is a mod, is keep saying like, well, the resistance is equally as bad. And I'm like, no.
Except she won't, because the one guy just won't let her die. She's suicidal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just felt so this is also a broader problem actually in fantasy, which we have all talked about before in other books, is the falling in love with your colonizer trope. This was that on steroids because in most of those books, the main character and the main love interest normally actually have critical conversations about the society that they're in and how it has impacted them. I'm not saying I still love the falling in love with your colonizer trope because I hate it, but at least then it feels like it's addressed and it's normally the man who's the colonizer, which also feels problematic. But then you at least know that he doesn't agree with what that society is doing. In this book, the main female character and male character, actually never talk about it.
They never
Which
talk, period.
is
They just fuck.
For 2 seconds, he was
Crazy.
like, she's like, but don't you, like, you're one of us. And he's like, oh, well. Also, from the very beginning, literal first pages, she says, I exclusively sleep with soldiers.
Yeah, that was fucked too.
Which is an insane choice to make if you are the type of person these people are hunting.
But she's cool because she's exempt because it doesn't show.
It is insane. This is why I'm like, this has to be written by someone who just doesn't encounter oppression or discrimination in any fashion, because the relationship that Ren has to her oppressors is like actually the most unbelievable thing I've ever read. Like, and I think parts of it are admirable. Like, I think it's good to acknowledge that, normal people, quote unquote, non-psychics, whatever, are not all bad. I think that's fine. But the fucking the general's son and falling in love with him, literally no idea whether or not he believes you should be murdered.
Yeah, falling in love with him without having actual conversations with him is crazy.
She knows nothing about him and he knows nothing about her.
Yeah.
Nothing. They literally are just sleeping together. That's it. And the tension leading up to that wasn't even that good.
No.
I'm going to pause us and lead us into our first question after the AI one is, what do you think of Ren Darlington, the main character? Because I feel like we're already going that direction.
Yeah. Ren Darlington is a toddler who can't make her own decisions to save herself because, like, her uncle, God rest his soul, because he had to deal with so much fucking shit from her. He had to literally, like, leash train her to stop her from doing things that he knew would get her killed. And the amount of luck this bitch has, like, she should be dead from the onset. She should be dead.
It's her fault everyone else is dead.
Yes.
Or in a labor camp as a Black lesbian.
Yeah. Is she also, this is actually another thing that makes me think this book is AI, because to me, this feels like a computer generated version of the very typical romantic fantasy female character. It's like that female character, but again, taken to a level that feels like it was written by someone trying to be human and not someone who is human.
Well, just like didn't know how to use the tension of being inside with the enemy the right way. Like the dystopian character is supposed to work from the inside to dismantle the system. And she's just like trying to get out. And every time she's like, I shouldn't be here. Oh, but I really like hanging out with Kane and Liddy, but I can't be here. I need to leave. Oh, but Cross won't let me leave. So, but I, like it's just so back and forth with no real progress that I'm like, well, she's never going to escape this thought process and will forever just be, oh no, I'm here. Guess I better enjoy myself.
Exactly.
Well, she was in that thought process even in the fucking end when she finally does escape. Like, Cross literally had to push her across the barrier in order to get her to escape.
Yeah, it is so.
Yeah, and also no consequences for any of her actions. So why would she change or grow? Because he cleaned up everything in the end and just sent her away. And the only consequence is that she shot a gun and her uncle died. That is doesn't own any of them.
There are so many, in my opinion, plot holes in this book, just because, again, it's like watching a toddler stumble around with a machine gun and somehow no one notices. Like, there is no actual, like, intentionality of thought about cause and effect in this book, because she makes so many horrible choices, and then her big baddie who's in love with her for no reason steps in, or no one seems to notice, or the uprising somehow magically has a person in the right place to cover it up. It's just like, and it didn't have any, there was zero stakes to the book, which is a crazy thing to say about a book where the main character is like living amongst the enemy as like a hunted person, for there to be no stakes in the book. And it legitimately feels like there's no stakes.
No, this should have been Throne of Glass, where she was working to win so that she could take it down.
Yes. Selena Sardothian was much needed in this book. I think this is a good point to talk about the thing we were talking about in the non-spoiler section about her really, really stupid decision, which made the book go downhill from.
Oh my God.
What did y'all think of her removing her fucking scar?
Dude, this is literally the decision.
I thought it was going to happen against her will.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she just did it.
Get
to
out her
prove that she
own!
loved this man who should have killed her on sight, and I thought kind of would have.
Right. This is literally the thing I read where I was just immediately like 2 stars. I'm sorry. There is like one single thing that can identify you as not only a quote unquote mod, but as one of the most powerful mods that exists. Your father figure brutalizes you as a child, literally out of love, to stop this from exposing you to the world. I was like, not only is this the dumbest decision a character has ever made, it actually like spits in the face of everyone who has tried to take care of her. Like, what did she think she was going to do with this giant red mark?
While I sleep with the general's son.
Yeah. And he's just like so happy that you trusted him enough for some reason, even though he loves his family and his fathers and his brothers, but he's quote unquote good because he sends mods to the labor camps and doesn't kill them.
Here's where also this could have gone well, is she finds out that Cross is keeping her in the program because he's actually working with the Resistance and is a mod himself and has like clocked that she's a mod. And like, that would make sense then that some of the other people in this program might also be mods because he's like recruiting the best of the best to be Silver Elite and like work from the inside to take it down. But no, well, we think that's what we would get. We don't, which is so disappointing. And I don't know. She just is like, oh, wow, here I am. Let me just show you everything.
Yeah, because the only reason why he doesn't kill her is purely because he like is in lust with her. I don't think he's in love with her. I think he's in lust with her. He likes sleeping with her. That's about it.
Until they reveal, which page 5, I knew this, that
same.
Wolf and him are the same person.
Yeah.
As soon as she met that shadowy stranger in the inn, I was like, that's Wolf.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like,
their voices don't sound the same in their head as Imperial person. I'm like, well, that's him. The end.
Yeah. Yep. Worst twist of all time. Just like so anticlimactic. Also, I agree with you, Caitlin. Like, the right way for this book to be constructed is like, he's working with the Resistance. He's not part of his father's empire, and he's building resistance in his like privileged position.
Yeah.
No, he's actually an apologist for what his dad is doing to people like him. And they have no conversations about this. 0 critical conversations about his actual beliefs about what should be done about this. But the other thing that was super unbelievable to me is how many mods are in the program.
Yeah, there's too many.
I was like, it's like every other character in the book was a mod or working with the Resistance. I was like, it did feel like reading in the 3rd game of the last Hunger Games book, where District 13 has built themselves up over these years, and they're now, somewhat powerful and are actually able to fight the Capitol in a kind of meaningful way. It felt like reading that. I was like, what is the Resistance waiting for?
Yeah.
You have like so many people within this society that I actually don't understand how you're not in control right now.
All of the Resistance people she encounters after she leaves her town Z or whatever are all painted as villains.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, I thought, girl, you wanted to be part of this. And I think she just doesn't want to be a part of anything. That's the main flaw.
And like, you could have like a critical discussion about how regime changes and how both regimes were bad. And you can say
they made a half-hearted attempt at saying that briefly.
Yes, but like with the Resistance and stuff, they're not the ones in power, so therefore they are not the same or as bad as the people in power. Like, it physically is impossible because there's a power dynamic there. And the thing is, it's like she's mad at the resistance for not telling her shit. Why would they? Why would they trust you? You have not shown them any degree of trustability. Like you have been so chaotic and so like against orders. Why would they ever tell you the full story?
They also didn't know about her. Like, they didn't know she had all this stuff because her uncle kept her secret. So,
Right. And it's also like they actually, I think, vilify the mods to an unfair degree.
yes.
So there are some mods that have more controversial abilities than others.
Like hers.
Right. Being able to incite someone to do something that they don't want to do is obviously like more powerful and more like morally bad than just like being able to project an image into someone's mind. But I was like, okay, so we're sort of like apologizing for the fact that we kill them as a solution. That's the best we can do. Is, well, inciting is bad, so I guess that's fine.
Okay, so this is where I definitely got the right-wing kind of propaganda thing, is because they go into this point on this topic of, well, it's better to just kill them because there used to be a time in the old world where all the criminals were housed in prisons and were getting 3 square meals a day while people on the outside starved. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, them saying that was crazy.
Random 2 pages. That was a lot.
Well, yeah, when they were talking about the history of the United States, because I'm assuming it's the United States, and they were like,
yeah,
prisoners are getting 3 square meals while everyone else is starving. And I'm like, yeah, they're in.
So it's better just to kill people instead of imprison them.
Yeah, like you can't starve people.
We should have right. We should have them as slaves in labor camps. That's
and
the
then talking about
appropriate
like
form of
the
punishment.
violent people in the South who make good drugs. I was like, what the hell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which again also feels extremely AI to me. Or, I mean, maybe the author is just kind of a problematic person. But it's like, of course, AI would kind of build this rudimentary world off of stereotypes. And off of like the powerful, toxic manosphere culture. Like, that's what it felt like, is like, whoa. And it felt like, so the justification for oppressing the mods now is that the mods were previously in power and oppressed the primes, which I think is actually like a fairly decent setup for conflict, right? Like both people abused their power when they had the chance.
Correct.
But instead of being like a thoughtful critique of power and the people that others choose to follow and the way extremism develops within communities, they're literally just like, well, both people were bad, so we should hold hands now and figure out a way forward without killing anyone. I know that they've enslaved hundreds of thousands of people and murdered hundreds of thousands of people who were innocent, but we can find a way through this. I was like, no.
And I lost it. I was going somewhere. The fact that the uprising, their actual end goal is never made super clear, and it really just feels like they're just trying to flip it back and kill people. And so, like, why join either side when it's just to kill someone? Yeah,
but that
there's
point
no
felt
like
really
end goal that felt noble.
Right. And both felt very underdeveloped. Like it felt like we don't really know. We know why we're against the primes because of the genocide, but we don't really know why we're not for the uprising. Like it feels almost like the main character believes prime propaganda about the uprising because there's no critical thought about like what are these people actually doing? What's their end goal? Like what are things that they've done in the past?
Crime. So like,
yeah.
No, you're supposed to find out you like both people and both sides have merits and we could all figure out how to live in this society together. But no, it's really just this versus that. And it's really disappointing the whole time.
Well, you have one moment where she actually defends the uprising, saying like, we're not killing children. Like it's like we plant a bomb in an uninhabited area in order to like do a distraction. And like you can see her not even believing her saying that. And then Cross is like, are you sure about that? And then I'm like, Cross, Your father literally like massacred 1 million people in a day.
Yeah, but Cross didn't kill anyone of the mod, so it's okay. Also, they dropped this part at the beginning where they're like, oh, the mod serum, like no more of it exists, blah, blah, blah. And it makes you think that I don't know, it needs to explain too when we're talking about the mod thing. I feel like I understood that they're born randomly because of all the nuclear war that happened on the planet. And now some people are just born with the silver blood stuff. But then they're talking about there's no more of that stuff left. So what are like, if you kind of need to know if new babies can be born with this ability or not, or if like eradication is the end goal. But if people will keep spontaneously being born with this mutation, then like, what's the point? I don't know.
Right.
Like you can't stop it then.
It felt
Right.
strange. The other thing that really bothered me is the timeline didn't make sense at all. So the mod regime that was oppressing non-modified people was only like 50 years before what's current day in the
It's only
book.
25.
Yeah, maybe even less. So
Yeah,
there's
they're
like
celebrating the 25th.
Yeah, it was 25.
okay, yeah, 25th. And so then like not like her generation really, but the previous generation actually remembers that regime and like lived through that regime.
Yeah, her uncle wouldn't have been a member of the uprising. He would have been a member of the other regime.
Of the regime. Like,
You're right. I didn't think about that.
there's no conversation about what these people were actually doing during the regime that was like happening while they were young adults and they
Or
were
her
also a part
parents.
of.
Yeah.
And her parents were actually working like the quote unquote spoiler, which was the worst, or the quote unquote twist, which was like the worst, dumbest twist I've ever heard, is that her parents were actually working against the modified regime.
They helped the primes go in power.
Yes. And
Right,
like,
but that's every dystopian novel. You think you're working against it, and then you find out both sides are bad. Blah, blah, blah. You know, District
Right.
13, Katniss, killed the president.
right. But then it's like, these people were all around during the violent uprising of another regime. And that's like not present in the book at all.
That's true. And she talks about like the great massacre of the mods of when the regime change happened, like it's history, when it would have been like 5 years before she's born.
Yeah. Like that would have been very active and present. And so then I had a huge problem with the fact that like 25 years into what is effectively a brand new society, they're all just like totally have accepted it.
Yeah.
Like there's no more unrest, really. The general has supreme control over everything. They've totally rebuilt their technology capabilities and managed to completely oppress primes in 25 years. I'm not saying that like totally couldn't happen, but you would not have this like built out, solidified society in that much time. Like the United States 25 years in was basically a bunch of cowboys, and like the US military was still suppressing uprisings. Like if they wrote it as if this is our society now and we can't do anything to escape the general, I was like, most adults would actually
timeline, and you've actually made me even angrier now that
Yeah.
I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it. So
and all the adults are like, this is just the way the world is. I was
right,
like,
and
people,
You remember a time when it wasn't that way.
yeah,
she
people
should
who-
hate all the staples in her class a lot more because their parents committed genocide of the people not very
Literally.
long ago.
The
Yeah.
people rounding everybody up was them.
Yeah.
Like your parents would know everyone who killed other people and also know people who were killed.
And also probably participated, it sounds like.
Right.
Mhm.
And then they're all like, oh, what can you do with the general? I was like, people who actually like facilitated and took active role in a genocidal uprising, I don't think really think that way. Like,
Also, like government systems are so shaky in those first 25 to 50 years.
it's extremely difficult to actually solidify power in that amount of time.
So the idea, like, what can we do? I'm like, assassinate the general. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's so easy. Like, I mean,
Okay, I want to skip to another question on that topic. What do you think of Silverblock? Also, why are the generals 18 to 22-year-old sons running the entire military.
That makes no sense to me.
I lift my hands in the air. Okay, the general's sons in a nascent administration that is for world timeline abilities is within the most critical period of its solidifying control of a continent. And they have done this so well that the leaders they need are 20 years old.
Correct. Yeah, that I did have a thought through the whole time, but even crazier when you point out the timeline thing. I'm like, well,
the nepotism is insane, and no dictator would ever put his kids in power if it was truly only 25 years out and so goddamn shaky.
Yeah. And also, it was so easy to control a group of people you convinced to turn on and slaughter their neighbors.
it's a similar plot. It's reminding me of Hurricane Wars,
Yeah.
but it's different. Hurricane Wars did it correctly.
Yes. Because Hurricane Wars feels unstable. It feels like two forces are at war and one side is winning, but it's
like a civil war.
And the son is like not happy with his situation.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just more speechless the more we talk about it.
Crazy.
Also, I'm sorry. I did like the world, but it was basically just Hunger Games. That's probably why I liked it. The districts or whatever. Except it's the set of numbers that use the alphabet.
Oh, so creative.
Oh my God. You know what made me want to give this book 1 star?
What?
Hell fuck. Hell fuck.
Hell fuck. Oh my God, no.
Why was that the swear word? Why?
Yeah, that's a ridiculous swear word.
Wow. Putting together 2 words that we have currently. So creative.
It actually made both of those words feel less effective.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I was like, I'm supposed to take this character seriously?
I'm trying to look at which questions we haven't talked about. What do we think about Jim's death?
I was sad because, like, he's a crotchety old man that's just been trying to protect his, like, niece, who's not really his niece, but you know.
I thought it was a decent start to the book, but she takes no ownership that this is entirely her fault.
100%.
Yes.
Or the fact that Cross is the one who followed her to the farm, so it's also his fault her uncle's dead. That never comes up.
Yep.
Yeah, I also thought it was a decent start of like a call to action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been hiding her and raising her, and now she has been thrust out into the resistance or whatever.
Yep, finds herself in the middle of the enemy and has to figure out how to.
Right.
Yeah, classic start.
And I actually liked the military academy thing that was going on. Like, fighting to be in this elite group of people so that...
She wasn't fighting to be, and she was never cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was actively trying to get kicked out.
And Cross was like, nope, which would have made sense if he was secretly an operative and knew she was valuable. But he's not. He just thinks she's hot.
Literally.
Yep.
He just can't let her escape him.
Magnetism, man.
Crazy. It did bother me that the whole thing feels sort of like regular military academy training to me until the very end when they have to basically fight the other cadet to the death.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, what the fuck is happening?
If these were all your most elite people, you'd automatically... Well, I guess they're not supposed to die. She just happens to be accidentally murderous. But yeah, like, why would you pit all your best people against each other? Wouldn't you want to hone all of them?
It's stupid. Like when you're trying to be a Navy SEAL, if you don't succeed in becoming a Navy SEAL, you're just in the regular Navy. Like they don't make eligible Navy SEALs fight each other so that they can be injured and dead instead. Like,
yeah, but the mind readers can also heal, which was like a huge issue with me. Is like all the mind powers made sense except the healing thing.
Like
what the actual
also, why would you eradicate those people?
So helpful. Yeah, literally so helpful.
Yeah,
And,
anyway.
oh my God, the kid whose dad was a surgeon and he was like, they wouldn't let him be a surgeon. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but also doesn't it kind of make sense if the medical leaders have a magical ability to heal
Here's
people?
this thing that also felt like an attack on affirmative action.
Yeah.
Yikes. Anyway. Let's also talk about in the military academy, we get some other characters. We get Krause's sadistic younger bastard brother. We get Ivy and some of these other kind of bad, not desirable people. We get Batima, who is also a mod and is the only reason that the uprising starts talking to Ren again. And then we have Kane and Liddy, her besties.
I saw Kane being resurrected coming from
He was never dead. I
know.
said, this boy is not dead.
No.
He's not.
Well, because they kept saying, like, oh, the caskets have no bodies. I'm like, then they're not dead.
Right.
He didn't see it burn. They're not dead. That's what we learned from Fourth Wing, Akatar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of saw Kane being at least somewhat resistance focused
I
because
thought he'd be another mod because he was so focused on getting in.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Maybe he is a mod. I guess we don't know.
I think he is a mod.
Right. Yeah, I just did not connect to any of the side characters.
Also, you do kind of get invested in Liddy, and that's the only thing that surprised me is that she was the one who turned her in. But then at the end, I was like, okay, it wasn't actually that surprising, but I really thought maybe it was like a Liddy's gonna realize not all mods are bad, and that's the commentary. And it's like, no, actually, she's just a bitch and turned her friend in.
Turned her friend into the most sadistic fuck imaginable. Row.
Yeah. But it's okay because our weird, fucked up male main character is just gonna spirit her away.
Yeah, with no consequences for him either.
Yeah, I was like, how is he gonna go back?
She killed
somehow
the
nobody's gonna know.
interrogator. She told all these people that she's blood marked. And then his best friend, no questions asked, just goes with her into the Black Lands, which I still don't totally understand why the Black Lands or where the Black Lands. But she's the only one who can get
the
through
Black
them.
Lands.
She's the only one who can go through them.
Yeah. And then nothing about it made sense. I was like, yeah, so the romance that these two people obviously have is not going to get him in trouble at all. And when she mysteriously disappears and he's also gone, no one's going to think anything about that.
It was like, I would immediately think you took her away.
They tried to make you think for a second Kane was bad because they're like, someone reported seeing him leave your room and it was Kane. And I'm like, why was that? Why was that in there?
And why did he do that?
And then in 2 seconds, we realize he's alive and he's a member of the resistance. Like, why did you say that at all?
Why would he have done that? It makes no sense.
No.
Also, when she shows up with the other general, they're like, oh, the resistance isn't going to like this. I was like, why not?
Yeah, he came with, but also
he literally can't communicate with them at all.
Like, I only came because I promised Cross. Okay, why? Why did you agree to this?
Yeah, and why are you going?
Especially when they just killed the girl you were in love with.
Literally, and
there's no guarantee they'll let you live.
Well, and then they end with like, you don't know what he's done. I was like, I would guess what he's done because he's
done what he was ordered to do, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's also like 22 and high ranking in the military. So what could he have done, honestly? Not that much in that time span.
Yeah. Also, the scene where she's like a pretend prostitute being the most
unnecessary
cheap remake of the throne scene between Rhysand and Feyre.
Yep.
The Walmart version.
What was the point?
What was the point?
He just gave her that assignment to get her on his lap.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like is also
which people said there need to be more trigger warnings for dubious consent.
Yes, I actually was thinking about that this whole time too, because
random rape scene of her friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really out of the middle of nowhere. I was like, okay, so your lover is in charge of this whole group of people. For some reason, he allows in someone who's objectively a psychopath, and no one is able to control him. Those people actually don't do well in the military because
And
they
when he
don't take
tries to
orders.
assault your best friend, sounds like he succeeded. We
He
didn't
did
even get
succeed.
like an attempt.
Yeah.
You said, well, the best I can do for you is send you, the black lesbian, to a labor camp.
And then she questions why she won't talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
She's like, well, it's better than dying. That's your opinion, girl.
Yeah. It was awful. But I actually thought, what's the main character's name? I always forget.
Ross.
Ross.
Also, why did she have the power to sway him to say, no, they're not getting killed. They're going to the labor camp? Like, she should have no power and somehow does.
Yeah, because he likes her. Oh, the mods all get to be saved because she has a bleeding heart. And that means he's a good guy because he's not going to kill her.
Which is why it's so crazy why the general would let this fucking child be in charge of his elite special forces unit.
Like, his frontal cortex is not all the way formed. He's
Obviously.
just like, hey, girl.
But there are lots of times when I actually felt like this guy was not like a nice asshole. He was legitimately like really trampling on some very concerning boundaries. Like,
Yes.
he actually is her like boss. And they don't discuss that at all. But
And he comes
literally
onto
is
her,
the
never
boss.
the other way around.
Yes. It's like actually felt like an extreme abuse of power
Stockholm syndrome.
to make sure this woman who you just want to fuck ends up on your elite squad because you want to fuck her.
I never once in this book felt like that. Ooh, oh my gosh, they're gonna, they're gonna get together. They're gonna do it. Like, never once felt it. I was like, do I have to keep reading this part? That's how it was. It was not.
It was not sexy.
It was cringy.
I was not invested in the romance. Nothing ever got me to buy in. And I think the whole Wolf Daisy thing was supposed to get you there. And I was just kind of like, well, your childhood best friend sucks.
Yeah. And you could not feel that depth between them at all.
None.
No. Okay. So the very end, something that's supposed to be a twist, I guess, is Adrienne scrambling the general's brain, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I didn't hate, though, that there are mod powers we didn't know about.
Yes.
No,
And
I like
maybe
that.
there is more than our main character knows, and that the Resistance is doing some really bad things.
Yes. I
That
totally
was
agree with
good.
that. I like that.
Him becoming scrambled eggs on stage was meh.
What was the point of it?
Also, why didn't you do it sooner?
Also, they went the whole time talking about you can't just cut off the head of the snake, and then that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Yes, that was my whole point with this scene, is I was like, you guys have already made this point that you can't just kill whoever the fuck you want at the top of the pyramid. It doesn't work.
They didn't kill him.
Why is this scrambling brain thing different? Like, you did the same thing.
Yeah.
Now his sons, who are all fucking 20 years old, have inherited the military.
And sadistic.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'll give credit to, is knowing about the secret power and kind of how she found that ward of mind-boggled people and met Cross's mom. It's kind of like, what else have they been doing?
Right.
And she shouldn't be so ready to trust them.
Right. And I'm all on board even with her not trusting them.
Yeah.
It's just like,
but don't talk the whole time about not cutting off the head of the snake and then cut off the head of the snake.
Right. What's their strategy? What's their end game? No one apparently knows.
Yeah.
Also, if you're powerful enough to kill the leader of this society, you're powerful enough to have mounted an actual resistance.
Yeah.
Like, they frame it the whole time like this is some like scrappy group of like mods who's still around, and it's not. They're like almost equally as powerful. Like, it's kind of crazy.
They're like so very infiltrated into the actual government that it's like there are no stakes.
Right. Okay, so one of our other questions is, do you think dystopian novels can be adult? How about dystopian romance? And I absolutely think they can. I just think you have to be ready to deal with dystopia in a meaningful way, because adults are not reading this book the way teenagers are, which is like, yeah, Katniss is going to fight the system. And even Hunger Games did this so much better. But if you're going to write a dystopian romance for adults, like, it needs to be an actual like morally complex, thought out system.
I'm also not sure dystopian needs to be romance.
No.
I
I
mean,
don't think
like
so
a
either.
little bit of romantic element, like Divergent, maybe, but like the purpose of dystopian is not about like romance. It's about the
Right. And
dystopia crumbling.
it does feel a little icky to make a book about an incredibly abusive society, like focused on the romance. It just feels like we're kind of missing the point.
Yeah. I think that's my main critique about this book and about like the idea of dystopian romance, which was like the whole point of the author doing this. I don't think you can truly have a dystopian romance. You can have romances in a dystopian novel, but they cannot be the main focal point
No.
because you have to really reckon with governmental systems, abuses of power, and authoritarian regimes when you're talking about dystopian, because that's where the apocalypse has happened. And now humans are kind of scrambling around, and most likely an authoritarian regime is going to pop up.
Yeah,
And
and
that needs to be
often
the focus.
realizing when you look behind the curtain, the utopia is not so utopia, and then that's where it goes, you know? Like,
Right.
this wasn't dystopian, but I don't know what it was.
Because I think also
A
we just get,
post-apocalyptic romance-ish.
yeah, post apocalyptic romance almost. Because also there's a reason why regular everyday people buy into dystopian authoritarian regimes. And I thought that was almost totally absent. Like, they give us the face value reason, which is the fact that mods were oppressing regular people. But I feel like that is actually not felt in the book in a meaningful
Mm-mm.
way, as like, why do children who have witnessed so much unrest continue to buy into this system?
Well, and the people who are children of top government officials are afraid of mods instead of disgusted by them.
Right. Like the mod stuff feels almost coincidental to the logic of the society, whereas I believe regimes that actually build their cohesion off the backs of, genocide and like oppressing others, that is actually central. That's like the main part to the society is like we have to organize to eliminate a threat. And reading the book actually didn't feel that way. It felt like, oh, we're in polite society, so we hope there's no mods here. Not like we need to find and kill these people, which was kind of bizarre.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
someone else, please give us some adult dystopian. I mean, honestly, Suzanne Collins,
She could do it.
that was very mature for what we were when we were reading Hunger
Yeah.
Games. Like, that's adult dystopian, just written not dirty so that anyone can read it, you know?
Right. Like, I don't know what adding sex to this really did. It
Made the
just,
main character weaker.
especially sex with the son of the general.
The dictator.
Uh-huh.
Don't know what to tell you.
Fuck this book.
Fuck this book. What was she doing?
What should we read instead?
I'm
Okay.
just going to say The Hunger Games, please. Thank you.
Right. So I am so thrilled for an opportunity to recommend the fifth season. This is a book that actually deals with like post-apocalyptic societies extremely well and has incredibly deep, well thought out, morally complex characters and like extremely complex relationships from the oppressed and the oppressor and a magic system. Like to me, this book, like the fifth season is like expert pro level, and this book was like shitty kindergarten level of the same kind of ideas. So I recommend the fifth season.
I like that recommendation. They are similar. I mentioned the Hurricane Wars. If you want the trope of like the colonizer's son or whatever, like you can do that one. And it still is not perfect, but it's way better than that. And I really like that book because it was a fun world.
Yeah, it was. So there you have it. That's the most negative we've been in a long time. Probably since Colleen Hoover, actually. When we read
I still
Verity.
gave that like 3 stars, I think.
Yeah, even though we went in on that book all episode. So yeah, I mean, we did not like this book, obviously, but lots of people do. So if you think there's good things about this book we're overlooking, we'd love to hear from you guys. If you have other books that you think we should read instead that you're excited about that aren't getting as much hype, we'd love to get more recommendations.
Tell us who you think Dani Francis is.
Yeah. If there's any crazy theories going around on TikTok right now about this book, we would love to discuss that as well. So yeah, you guys can connect with us at Busy Girls Pod pretty much everywhere. And please rate and review our podcast 5 stars.
Yeah. And with that, I'm Catherine.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Caitlin. Thanks for listening. And when you get a chance, take a break with the Busy Girls Book Club.